Welcome to The Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
What's happening, Verno? Excited for the show today.
Well, Tuesday morning we are recording, and it did not look great last night for the NBA slate early. We were texting throughout it. We were talking about how, man, we were hoping this Nuggets-Pacers game might be pretty good, but this kind of turned into a dud. It looked like Mike Malone probably got onto them pretty good after they got worked by the Lakers over the weekend, and so they took that one super seriously, and Jokic was doing everything he wanted. Pistons-Clippers was good for first three quarters. Pistons really pulled away in the fourth quarter. We will get to that, but everything paled in comparison to the late game, which I've got to fully admit, after it was a 20-point game, I went downstairs and was screwing around, and I looked down at my phone, and I saw on Twitter somebody saying the T-Wolves have a chance to cut it to single digits. And I'm like, wait, what? What is going on? Ran back upstairs, flipped it on, and man, oh man, did we get more than we bargained for a regular season game between the Wolves and the Thunder, which I was looking forward to anyway, because once they played the semi-close game over the weekend, you wondered, this is a lot like a playoff series. Is the next game going to be the Thunder blow them out and extend things, or is it going to be a reversal of fortunes? And it looked for a long time like it was going to be the Thunder just blowing out the Wolves, but easily the best comeback I've seen all year, a 41-19 fourth quarter, and then the Wolves get it done in overtime. This was for sure one of the games of the year.
It was a fantastic game, not only because while the Timberwolves were down by 20, I just put $20 on them to win the game and got great odds.
Wow.
It was just to keep myself interested. You know what I mean? I invest to keep myself interested. That's why I didn't go to the kitchen when they were down by 20. But what was really interesting about this is this was a white flag game from the Timberwolves. They kind of waved the white flag and took Ant out of the game. We're just kind of like, I guess we lost this one. And I feel like the Thunder totally took their foot off the gas, just totally just decided this one was over. And then it was just Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr. just kind of hitting another three, get another stop, hit another shot, get another stop. And before you knew it, the inertia, the momentum that the Wolves had just could not be reversed by the Thunder no matter what they did. And they did it without Ant. Like, if you didn't watch the game, you're going, oh, Ant had a big block in overtime against SGA, and Ant played good defense at the end against SGA. You would assume that Ant powered this comeback, but that was not the case. This was the reserves for the Wolves, and who were playing without Gobert, without Randall, without DiVincenzo. Like, it was the reserves at the end that really made this all happen. And if you are a Timberwolves fan, it was a very encouraging victory. If I'm a Thunder fan, I don't care. I'm like, whatever. They took their foot off the gas. That would never happen in a big game. So it's not a concerning loss, but it's a big win for the Wolves who needed it.
Yeah, there are three things. The first of which is, as you mentioned, guys that are getting an opportunity that would not normally get an opportunity in that setting, and they are making the absolute most of it, and they're going 100 miles an hour. Finch zones them up, so you're just throwing stuff at the wall. Like, all right, now we're going to throw two guys at the top of the key, and then we're going to stretch it out, and then we're just going to hope they miss open threes, which they did. You're right. I mean, they're getting a Wiggins three, a Caruso three. They're getting the Dort three from the corner, and Cason Wallace. It's like they're generating the shots out of this, and yet they're just not making them. But it was one of those like petri dish. Okay, let's just throw out a bunch of guys, and then let's throw out this defense, and let's just see, because we might need to be using this later. And I do wonder if there is some level of effectiveness that had, that other teams are watching, that they're going, this team moves the ball so well. We're trying to do what we can against SGA. Like, there's some form of, this may be our best chance, at least something to throw at the wall against them. And I do think it was actually good for the Thunder to see that before you get to the playoffs, right? I think it was good to see that and go, oh, okay, there might be some teams that try this. Here's the way we're going to deal with it the next time. Not that I felt like they dealt with it horribly, because they got a bunch of open shots that they just missed. But, and then the third thing was big balls by Finch to not go back to Ant after things, really, Ant and
you would
Reed.
think when it gets close, be like, let's put our superstar in, but he didn't.
Well,
it's like, this is working, let's rock with it.
Part of it, and sometimes you see this where it's like a team has a game plan for what they are going to deal with. And so I was texting you during the game, and I was like, man, you really just got to worry about Ant and you got to worry about Reed. And they're just going to be able to sell out on these guys. And you saw that those two guys, they're sitting on the bench for the most part in this stretch run that this team is making. And I do think there's a portion of it where it's like these teams' game plan, they've got their whiteboard in their locker room. And then it's like, okay, well, like all these things we talked about, and the whole way we're going to defend this team, like what? We don't have anything for Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon, and right? It's like none of that defensive game plan that you've been executing so well while you're blowing them out is particularly relevant, because you've got a bunch of guys that it's like they're not even on the whiteboard, and ended up being super fun. So I actually agree with you. Wouldn't be too distraught if I am Oklahoma City. On the other hand, mega encouraging. And also, you need those other guys when it comes to a playoff series. And so it's great for the Shannons and the Dillinghams of the world to get some confidence in a big-time environment against a team that has the best home record of anybody and is number one in the conference. Like, you need them having some success in spots like that.
Because
McDaniels
the
as well. McDaniels as well, because McDaniels turned into the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was a really important player for them last year, and I've waited for him to sort of like resurface this year in a way that's significant, which he did last night. But I felt like this game and the Nuggets game over the weekend, which I'm sure we'll get to, where the Lakers blew them out, it's let's double their MVP candidate and let's see if others can beat us. Let's just get the ball out of Jokic and SGA's hands. And I think that will work as a quote unquote sort of like surprise tactic in the middle of the regular season. But in a playoff series, I do not think that will work. It might get you a game, but it's not going to get you a series against two players that are good and as consistent and intelligent as they are.
But I think that is the question with the Thunder that people are going to have, which is when that does inevitably happen and you have to have the other step up, a lot of times it's going to come down to, does Lou Dort, does Kason Wallace, does
Caruso,
Aaron Wiggins, do these guys, are they making the open threes?
Yeah, it is. And it does come down to that. I think it's also worth
mentioning. You're going to direct the shots that way.
It's worth mentioning they didn't have Chet. Now, obviously, the Timberwolves were missing everybody, but without they missed Chet as a, with J-Dub and SGA, Chet is a really nice third option of someone who can just get you a bucket when you're getting just absolutely rained on like they were at the end of that fourth quarter. I felt like they really did miss him there, but it was a really fascinating game, and I think this is the highlight of the game. But the block that Ant had is worth mentioning. It just felt like a play that a superstar makes. I mean, we celebrate so many of the Jordan and Kobe offensive plays over their careers, but superstars make defensive plays in tight spots too. And that was one of those plays from Ant, who is an emerging superstar that you just make when you're one of those guys. When you're a top 5, top 10 guy, you make plays like that.
Yeah. Great game for sure. The other ones that we mentioned, things that took place last night, break up the Pistons. 7 in a row now. And one of the great stories, if not the great story in the NBA. You had a massive Cade Cunningham game. You had a massive Duran game with the 18 rebounds. And 7 in a row now with a win over the Clippers, a vet team. And sometimes you catch these teams that are like, especially first time through, and they feel like they are just riding a wave right now. The hustle plays by Thompson had one of the craziest blocks that you could ever see, and also a follow-up dunk. They've got like this group of vets, whether it's Beasley, whether it's Hardaway, whether it's Tobias Harris,
yeah.
They kind of augment Cunningham, who has been just absolutely otherworldly. And they're the fun one right now. They're going to be the fun one for everybody to root for in the playoffs. And they're certainly the fun one right now because they constantly feel like an underdog. And it's always fun the first time through. I think the last time I felt this way, where I went out of my way to watch a team and was super excited about it, was that Light the Beam Kings when that wave happened. But this thing in Detroit is a wave right now.
I think that's a good comparison. I didn't think of that, but this does kind of feel like the Light the Beam Kings. And I also feel like the Light the Beam Kings, it's going to be a really good story of a sort of Cinderella regular season success. And this is, as you always talk about ad nauseum, is you need to get your playoff experience. You need to have your playoff scars. And this team will lose in the first round, but it will be a building block. I mean, they're light years away from where they were last year, and losing a game 6 in the first round will really help this team and this nucleus moving forward. And one thing I found interesting, I was watching the game last night, and Beasley didn't play great. He's been playing really well recently, but they added, as I mentioned before, they added Beasley, Harris, and Hardaway Jr., just bringing some bets in the room. And I was thinking to myself, we're celebrating Kenny Atkinson so much for the success that he has had with Cleveland. And he is considered to be a huge upgrade over Bickerstaff. But at the same time, Bickerstaff goes to Detroit and he's doing a great job there. Right. So it's almost like we're like, oh, Kenny Atkinson, like he's unlocked the Cavs and Bickerstaff is holding them back and this and that. But Bickerstaff went from, down the street to Detroit, and he's had himself a hell of a season coaching this team. So I want to salute Bickerstaff, who's watching his previous team have more success than they had when he was there, but he's also brought a lot of success to Detroit.
You know what I think? I think that this is a good example of sometimes coaches are best for finished products, and sometimes coaches are best for developmental teams, right? Because and just somebody that has not had the proper structure and all of those things, and then coming in and making that happen. Because look, I covered JB Bickerstaff. He's one of my favorite people ever in the NBA when he was here in Memphis. And then there are coaches that are great for your young players, and then there's coaches that are better for the more finished product. Like I'll give you an example. If you reversed it, Mark Jackson was in Golden State, and it doesn't matter what anybody says about Mark Jackson, except to me, the players. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the rest, right? And they all talk about him being instrumental in getting them to where they were, them becoming what they became in the NBA, right? I don't think that most people, rightfully so, believe that Mark Jackson would have gotten them to the level that Steve Kerr did.
Yeah.
But I also think in reverse, Steve Kerr probably doesn't coach that developmental Warriors team as well. Right? Like there might be a coach that's better to take you to the next level, but the kind of coach that's better to get you to the first point, that's what JB is. And I think Atkinson is probably the guy that can look at something and say, okay, now I can make this better. But going from crap to good, JB's a great coach for that.
So how would you categorize the job that Coach Bud has done in Phoenix this year?
I mean, look, the whole thing is that I think, honestly, I think you can blame the coach until you can't blame the coach. And last year, people blamed Frank Vogel. They acted like Frank Vogel. Like he was the one that had to fall on the sword from last year. And Frank Vogel's a fantastic basketball coach. Everybody knows that. Bro, if you've had Frank Vogel and you've had Mike Budenholzer, these guys are both going to end up in the Hall of Fame. as coaches. Both Frank Vogel and Mike Budenholzer will end up being in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done.
No.
And have tons of wins under their belt.
I'm not going to have this argument right now, but no, Frank Vogel will not be in the Hall of Fame. God bless him. Love Frank
Yes, he
Vogel.
will.
Will not be in the Hall of Fame. Will not.
For sure will.
Will not.
For sure will. He won a title.
We can have this argument offline. Every coach that wins a title goes to the Hall of Fame now?
Bro, the basketball, you might be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Nobody cares about the Basketball Hall of Fame.
I grew up down the street.
What are you talking about?
I grew up right down the street.
What are you talking about? I mean, anybody can be in there. Look, we're not talking about the Baseball Hall of Fame. We're talking about the Basketball Hall of Fame. They put everybody in there.
Please.
So all I know is it's not the coach's fault in Phoenix. That's the point of this.
No, it's not the coach's fault in Phoenix. And you know, one thing I want to do on this podcast, and I don't know what you have planned for the rest of it, is Phoenix and Philadelphia are taking up too much of the conversation in the NBA. Guess what? They're both terrible. They both have a bunch of stars. They both suck. They're going to make trades. Everyone's going to get fired. It's all going to happen. It's a dumpster fire, but let's just move on. I see it. Again.
I'm a little concerned. I would typically go all in with you right now, but I'm going to Memphis Phoenix tonight. So I've got to be careful.
What are you concerned about? Where's the concern?
I'm just saying, like, it's my luck that I would come on here and talk about what a dumpster fire the Suns are, and then I go watch them have the best performance of the year. Yeah,
exactly. The bounce back, right. The bounce back win.
Kevin Durant's got 38, and Booker's got 36, and Beal's got 24, and I'm like, oh God, now I've got something on the record. Me calling them a pile of crap. And now I'm watching this. I just gotta be a little careful.
You gotta hedge your own emotions and expectations. But they are a dumpster
my luck,
fire.
Right?
They are a dumpster fire.
But we can't talk about the Sixers,
down, blah, blah, blah.
There's not a group text that I had that was not talking about the Sixers score last night. I mean, that was downright shocking because there's no way you try and lose by 40 or 50 to the friggin' Bulls.
I mean, to give up that many points to the Bulls.
It's impossible.
The Bulls should score that many points in 2 games. That's seriously 2 games. It's out of control. To give up that many points to the Chicago Bulls in the middle of February when they're not trying to win games is absolutely absurd. But I honestly, I don't want to give any more air to the Sixers or the Suns. I'm done. It's over. It's over.
Well, one quick thing. The super promising Philly Inquirer story talking about possibilities of Joel Embiid and what can happen medically, where they offer that there might be meniscus replacement or maybe low-dose radiation therapy or even an ominous sounding osteotomy.
Osteotomy. I know him.
Osteotomy.
Yeah, I know Osteotomy. I grew up with him. Osteotomy and me still text.
That's where this is from the Philly Inquirer. It says, or even this is a possible what they could do with Joel Embiid, a ominous sounding osteotomy in which doctors break a bone in the hip to realign the joint to alleviate pressure. That sounds great.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
what?
The report from a few days ago was like they're consulting doctors of what to do with him. They're basically saying is we're going to talk to as many doctors as we possibly can to give us an excuse to no longer play Embiid this season because it's over. That's what they did. And they found one. Osteotomy.
Joel. All right, look, we're just going to lay out all the options. So one of these options is that we come in and we break your hip so that your knee stops hurting.
Like break your hip to realign your leg.
I don't know.
Osteotomy.
That sounds horrible. And it also sounds something that wouldn't be great for a 7'2" guy.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
It's a wrap.
Other things last night, we have become now, I think we've become used to these Jokic performances, and yet last night in Indiana, he has 18 points, 9 rebounds, 19 assists, and 4
19
steals.
assists. Like, there's about 100 possessions in an NBA game, and he got 19 assists. It's insane.
Holy mackerel. Unbelievable. Other guys worth mentioning.
Before
Zach
you
LaVine.
move on,
go ahead.
Before you move on, I'm watching this Nuggets-Pacers game, and obviously the Nuggets won, and Jokic had 19 assists, and that's the takeaway. I was watching it going like, not bad from the Pacers. I actually watched that game, and I was looking at the game like, you know what? The Pacers they're hanging. They're down around 10 the whole time. And as you know, as someone who pays a lot of attention to the standings in the Eastern Conference, and you know the Pacers series last year with the Knicks, and I was like, you know what? The Pacers are coming into form. I would say in the last month, I'm looking at this Pacers team very differently than I was in 2024. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I think they were like
rounding into form.
I think they were like 15-5 or something like that at the beginning of January. Like they were 2 games under 500 coming into the new year. I think they were 16-18.
Yeah.
And so now with the chance as they continued to move up the standings, they have been playing much better basketball. And you had to know that there was a real chance you were going to get a hyper-focused Nuggets team after what took place against the Lakers over the weekend, because that was super impressive by the Lakers and also super disappointing by the Nuggets, who had won. They were the hottest team in the NBA, and they're playing on their home court against a team that they have absolutely owned. And it's the first time seeing the Luka version of the Lakers, and the Lakers have just the Grand Slam effort of Grand Slam efforts against them.
I love that. I love that Lakers game. I think myself, just like everybody else in the nation, sort of like, you know, made sure that they were available at 8:30 Eastern on Saturday night to watch every second of that one. And it was a great game by the Lakers. And I will say, coming away from it, that there was a part of me that, you know, I can go negative on anything, Chris Vernon. It's just, I'm like a smiley, nice fella, but I've got a deep, dark soul. And there's a part of me that's like, JJ Redick, stop taking credit for this. You know what I mean? I haven't slept in 2 days, and all I was doing was thinking about the game plan. And we're like, oh, the game plan that JJ Redick had, shut it down. It was just like, bro, like, why are you making this? I didn't go to sleep until 5 a.m. last night because I was just drawing up plays on how to stop Jokic, and look what I did. It's like, bro, it's like, it was a good game plan, but the Nuggets didn't show up, and your players executed it. So it's not about you, JJ. Sorry, I had to do that. I love you, JJ. I'm sorry.
Well, didn't he say, like, you guys were willing to die on the court or something? I was like, for sure they're not willing to die on the court. They're for sure not willing to die on the court. Bro.
Not at all. Not
like,
at
I know
all.
it sounds cool, but, like, they're for sure not willing.
You just, in the last week, you just lost to the Hornets and the Jazz. Where was the not sleeping for those games? You know what I mean? Like, literally, you just lost to the Hornets and the Jazz in the past 2 weeks. So maybe game plan for those two, if you're so brilliant. Sorry, JJ, I love you. You're my favorite. Don't block me.
He has done a good job, but it is kind of funny that
the defense. The defense has been surprising, and I think that Bando. I think it's really Bando. It's like, oh, they added Luka. Sure, of course, we're not going to breeze past the fact they added Luka, but Bando, DFS, and Gabe Vincent sort of coming back and rounding into form have been very impactful for that team. It's like they added like 4 guys, not just Luka.
Finney Smith is the biggest one to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we all knew it.
You've got to have guys. He is a perfect role player for them, in my opinion. Does not need shots, does not need the ball, will keep the ball moving, and then will guard every possession, rebound his position. Like, these are the kind of guys you need. You've got to have guys that don't need the ball and guys that are willing to do all the other stuff that the stars are just not going to do, right? They're going to fight through every screen. They're going to switch everything they can. They're going to meet you at the rim. Like, they're going to dive on the floor for the loose ball. Like, every great team needs those. And so I think the underrated move they made of all these, obviously, look, there's going to be one move that everything pales in comparison to. But I think the Finney Smith thing is the big underrated one that actually changes them as a team.
I mean, early on in the season, I said on this pod, I was like, well, who on that roster can get you a stop besides AD?
Yep.
I mean, it was like they were like a hockey team with a hot goalie. It was just like, well, we'll just filter it all to him and he'll make it all work. And they didn't have a great defense, but it was pretty good. But with Finney-Smith coming back and Vando, and because like Rui, Reeves, Luka, for the most part, LeBron, they're not getting you stops, but DFS can get you a stop. He can get you a stop. And their defense is really what's turned it around for them. But again, I don't want to, we're going to celebrate this win against the Nuggets, but they lost to the Hornets. They lost to the Jazz.
One more thing on the DFS front, because we are seeing this in other places as well. The guys that were on sorry teams that then get to move to teams that really have a chance. And last year we saw it with PJ Washington. We saw it with Daniel Gafford. This year we're already seeing it with Kuzma, who had the hilarious post about how he forgot what a 4-game win streak feels like. We're seeing it with Finney-Smith. We're seeing with other guys that had the opportunity to move from teams that had no chance to teams that have a chance, not the least of which is LaVine, who was, swimming upstream playing for Chicago. And last night, if you would have just landed on planet Earth and watched a basketball game, you would have thought Zach LaVine is the best basketball player on earth. He's 16 for 19 from the field, 8 of 9 from 3, and has 42
8
points.
of 9 from 3. And I'm not going to lie into a microphone. I'm not going to lie into a microphone. Kings Hornets did not keep me up until 12:30 at night last night. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
I did not stay up for this one. But when I woke up, I was like, wait. LaVine had 42 because this could be impactful. You know what I mean? Because the Kings are part of that Western Conference group where you're like, they're going to be in the play-in. And, you could get a Zach LaVine 42 that can really frustrate a team like the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. Just saying it out loud. Just going to say it out loud.
Or a DeMar DeRozan or a Sabonis they got guys. Monk can go off. Like, they legit have at least 4 guys that could get 30 on you. Yes. And there ain't many teams that have 4 guys that could get 30.
No. And LaVine has had like a career year. And, I was curious of just how much of it was I'm on the Bulls and someone has to score 30 because we're going to get to 95. But, that was a great game last night. 8 of 9 from 3 is insane. And when he's going well, like you said, when LaVine has it going, so sometimes I look at him, I'm like, that's a prototypical NBA superstar right there. You know what I mean? He's got the height, he's got the length, he's got the touch. He can finish at the rim, he can hit threes, and then sometimes you're just like, oh, I guess that's why you're still Zach LaVine.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things we are going to do today is we are going to make semi predictions. We're starting with they don't now, but we are going to give things that we think people are going to believe coming up sooner than later. You ready?
They don't now, but.
Yes.
Okay. I'm ready.
Now, I get to come by this one honest because when we started talking about this yesterday afternoon,
you didn't send me yours, I noticed. You did not send me yours pre-pod.
But you knew a couple of them. Because when I proposed this, one of the first ones I sent you, and I sent it in the afternoon before the games, was Fair. They don't now, but people will soon consider Cade Cunningham a superstar. I sent that yesterday afternoon, not knowing. That could have gone either way for me last night. But thank you to Cade Cunningham. It went the right way because he had a monster game 32. Against the Clippers, which we mentioned. 32, 9, and 7, 3 steals. They've won 7 in a row. And for the month of February, Cade Cunningham's averaged nearly 28, 11, and 6. This is one of those things that is happening. It's not happening on national television. And so it's one of those things that people see on Instagram or on Twitter or wherever they see it. But I'm telling you, as someone who's gone out of my way to watch this team, you wonder why are the Pistons having this? And there's a lot of credit that goes to bringing in the vets. There's a lot of credit to go to JB Bickerstaff. But more than anything, it's that this guy is he has now ascended. He's going to run away with the most improved thing. But he has now moved into a totally different category and it's another lesson in Sometimes you just got to wait it out, because if you'd have asked somebody for the first couple of years, 3 years of his career, is Cade Cunningham someone that you can build a championship roster around? Is he a 1 or 2 on a championship level team? I think most people's answer would have been no.
My answer now is no.
Is yes.
My answer now is no. So my question for you is, so I'm just going to ask, I'm going to ask two follow. I'm not trying to do like a debate show thing here, but I want to ask 2 follow-up questions on this one. Superstar is, it might be thrown around a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Like superstar, what does that mean to you? Is that top 10 in the league? You know what I mean? Because is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a superstar? Is Anthony Edwards a superstar?
Yeah, for sure. What?
So they're superstars. I just want to know where the line is. Where's the line? Because I bring up Shai because I think that Cade and Shai, if I was Cade's mentor, I would say, look at the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander arc, right? Is in the first couple of years in Los Angeles, not even like a notable basketball player, really. You know what I mean? Like I loved him, but like, you know, I pay more attention to the NBA than most. But then you notice when he gets to OKC and he gets like sort of under the tutelage of Chris Paul, and then he has this sort of breakout season last season. Now he's, you know, an MVP candidate, maybe an MVP favorite, to be fair. And I think that we could see Cade doing that. So now that we've established what a superstar is, what is your timeline? They don't now, but they will soon consider Cade a superstar. What is your timeline on that?
By next year.
This time
it'll
next
start
year.
with the playoffs. It'll start with the playoffs.
Yeah, he'll have 40 in a win.
It's the first time he's going to be on. It's the first time he's going to be on TV.
Yeah, they'll lose in 6 in the first round, and he'll have one 40-point game at home.
Yeah, I mean, they are right. And I think people will look at it and they'll go, okay, next year is the year where he ascends to a team with Cade Cunningham is going to have a chance at being a fantastic team in the Eastern Conference. Like that's the line, right? Like if I've got this guy, there's a level to how bad I can be because this guy is that good on a consistent basis. And he is already starting to get very consistent. And I think that the reason I said they don't now is because, I mean, hell, they're lucky there's a video camera at their games at this point, much less being on national TV. Like, I mean, he doesn't even. He's never on TV. So there's going to be a lot of people that watch Cade Cunningham play basketball for the first time in the playoffs.
I always root for number 1 picks because I always feel a little bit of like sympathy for them because it comes with so much pressure. Like when you're the number 1 pick, like it sticks with you for the rest of your life. And we've seen it go wrong. And I think that Cade's first couple seasons in the league, which is a lot of injuries, not just to him, but also to his teammates. It's also worth mentioning they're doing all of this without Jaden Ivey, who was supposed to be like a key piece of what they do. And I love to see number 1 picks pan out appropriately. And Cade, I would say it's fair to say that he would probably say it himself that he did not play like a number 1 pick his first couple of years. And he is certainly playing like a number 1 pick now. I'm taking the under on superstar a year from now, but I'm also, if you could say, you think he could be the number 1 option on an NBA championship team, Chris Vernon?
He just got, look, this February, 28, 11, and 6, Jacoby. That's happening right now. He just played against the Clippers, who have like the second best defense in the NBA, and he carved them up. He had 32, 9, and 7 last night. I watched it happen. This guy is awesome. Absolutely awesome. People just don't realize how awesome he is yet.
If he's the number 1 option on a championship team, that means that he has some very, very strong players around him. I think, you know what I mean?
He's I'm not saying it's impossible. A 1A. That's what I'll say.
Fair. Yeah. I just don't, like, he's not like a Giannis type where it's like, we have Giannis, we have a chance. We have Luka, we have a chance. You know what I mean? No. Like, I think that he has to have a very good complementary roster around him to have playoff success. Unlike some players. But it's like
I
Luka
think SGA is actually a reasonable comp. Both.
Yeah, that's what I said. And we will see. All right.
Yeah.
They don't now. But very soon, we will once again come to the realization that we're watching the Celtics just coast through the Eastern Conference once again. It's going to be the same thing as last year.
I tried to tell you this.
I do not think
I
the
tried
Celtics.
to tell you this weeks ago, and you fought me.
I don't even think they'll see a game 6 in the Eastern Conference. Seriously. Like, we all were there.
Stop.
I'm telling you, man, like, we were all there when we saw them have their little swoon, right, before the All-Star break. I think it was December when they were kind of like winning 500 or whatever. But they've won 9 of 10, 12 of 15, top 5 in offense and defense. Tatum is just so consistent and available. And I was thinking about Porzingis. And I was like, you know what? Let me look at Porzingis' splits. I was like, let me just like, because I've always liked Porzingis. We did a documentary about him at Grantland before he got drafted. And I was just always I always liked the guy. And he is so consistent this season. He gets 19 on the road, 19 at home, 19. It's just like 19, 20, just up and down all the time. And I do not see a team, including Cleveland, that would have a competitive series against them in the playoffs. And I could be wrong, but right now, as I see it, that's how I see it playing out. They will coast through the Eastern Conference. Absolutely.
What a massive overreaction to the Knicks getting buried again. Wow. I didn't see this coming. Come on.
What?
Don't overreact that much just because the Knicks got buried.
Well,
come on.
I mean,
come on.
That I don't want to talk about the Knicks. Can we not? I'll get to them later. I do have something for them later.
I mean,
but I'm being serious with you right now. Let's say Eastern Conference Finals, Cleveland, Boston. I don't see that being competitive, especially with Jared Allen being hurt. I don't know what happened to his hand. We'll find out, but I don't see that being competitive at all. I really don't. I think Boston's just going to
I thought it was an
cruise to the
overreaction when they were playing 500 basketball and looked blah for a long time. And I think this is an overreaction as well. I think they're an outstanding basketball team, but I also think the competition is going to be much greater than it was last year. Much greater.
I don't want this to be the case.
In fact, I'll go ahead and do that right now.
I don't want this to be the case. I hope Bill's not listening to this pod. We've got a big game tonight. This is the one the NBA world has been waiting for. It is the Mavs and the Lakers going head-to-head for the first time since the trade that shocked the world just a few weeks ago. And big games deserve bigger winnings. That is why FanDuel is giving all customers a 50% same-game parlay profit boost for tonight's matchup. So if you want to bet on who is going to win or which players are going to have a huge night, you can combine your bets for a shot at an even bigger payout. These 50% profit boosts don't happen often, so make sure you take advantage when they do. Now, a lot of people are looking at this line. Luka Doncic right now on FanDuel over under 31.5 points. Now, will Luka have 32 points? Interesting. I think so. And I also think that LeBron James, whose over-under is 24.5, I'm going to go under on him. Why is that, Jacoby? Well, I'll tell you. Thank you for asking. Because I think that LeBron is going to make a concerted effort to get Luka his big game against his old team. So I think LeBron will be a little bit more deferential to Luka than you would expect. I think that they will engineer this game so Luka has a big game. So I'm looking at unders on Austin Reeves at 18.5 and LeBron James at 24.5. I generally don't like betting unders, but in this particular case, I'm going to make an exception. Luka over, under LeBron, under Austin Reeves, and Kyrie Irving over 26.5. And of course, I have the Lakers winning this one. So all you have to do is just go to FanDuel.com/mismatch to get in on the action. That is FanDuel.com/mismatch to get your SGP profit boost 50% for tonight's game, Mavs versus the Lakers. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, so I'm going to play into what you were talking about with the Celtics. They don't now, but everyone's going to soon realize that this year's playoffs are going to be roughly 700 billion times better than last year's playoffs. Last year's playoffs were an absolute disaster. Boston, Miami with a hobbled Miami. Knicks, Sixers was the only decent one that we had.
The best series. Seriously.
Right. And it happened in the first round.
Yeah.
Then we had Bucks Pacers, and we lost Giannis. And then we had Cleveland Orlando, which was like on the Discovery Channel, and nobody watched it. The NBA on NBA.com had a preview that I read for every single series. There wasn't even a preview or a beat writer at Orlando, Cleveland. Okay? In the West, Oklahoma City versus the Pelicans. Horrible. Denver versus the Lakers. Sweep. Minnesota versus Phoenix. Sweep. Terrible. Non-competitive. Clippers, Mavs. Who gave a crap? All right? That's what we were left with last year, which led us to what was possibly the worst playoffs that you could fathom. This year, if I just say today, Jacoby, because I was looking at this morning as we record this on February 25th, if it just landed the way it lands right now, forget the play-in and what happens with the play-in, even though that thing is going to change. We would have Cleveland, Atlanta, Boston, Orlando, New York, Detroit, and Milwaukee, Indiana. Okay? That would be the first round, which obviously, if the top 4 seeds advance, we would then get Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Boston, New York. Okay. Then in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Denver, Minnesota, which is a rematch of last year's chance to go to the West Finals, Memphis, Clippers, Lakers, Rockets. Like it is, and that doesn't even include the Warriors getting in there, who are going to get in there.
They will.
Okay. Like this year's playoffs is going to be so much better. And I know there's been a lot of lamenting on guys trying to stay healthy or guys not taking the regular season all that serious because the playoffs is all that matters. If we can get to the playoffs without a bunch of these teams losing their best players, it's going to be outrageous how much better these playoffs are this year with the characters involved and the teams involved than they were last year. Last year was honestly an all-time horrible playoff bracket, and then it played out even worse than we could have imagined. So, like, when you're saying stuff like, well, I don't even think anybody's going to compete with Boston, like, that Boston road last year was insane for what it typically takes to get to an NBA Finals. And this year, I think it will be infinitely better. And I think the teams, just top to bottom, are going to be, I think we're going to get much more competitive first-round series than we had last year. And I don't even think it's going to be particularly close.
I'll piggyback on that and say, I think the top 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference will pretty easily handle their first round series. Western Conference, no idea.
I know.
I mean, if I was, let's say, I don't know, a Memphis Grizzlies fan, you know what? I'm gonna piggyback on that and go to my next one. They don't now, but they're soon gonna listen to the Mismatch podcast get very, very dark in about 2 months.
Oh, God.
Because both the Grizzlies and the Knicks are going to wildly disappoint in the playoffs.
Showdown on Friday. Showdown.
We saw what happened last time. But I think the Knicks and the Grizzlies are going to be will be lucky to get out of the first round of the playoffs. And I'm serious. But for what you're talking about, if I'm a Grizzlies fan, do you want to play the Warriors?
Of course not.
No. Or even imagine a healthy AD in the Mavericks getting there somehow. Like the Timberwolves, all of those teams I would favor over the Grizzlies in a series right now. And if I was a Knicks fan, first of all, who knows?
Like, I'll let you, if you want to say the Warriors and the Lakers, okay.
Warriors, Lakers.
You slow down on the Wolves. Slow down.
Oh, please.
What? Slow down.
I'm telling you, man.
Slow down.
But also, it's no better for the Knicks. It's no better for the Knicks. I think the point being is I think the playoffs will be excellent this year because I think the Western Conference will have a 5 through 8 seed that will truly challenge their first round opponent. maybe not the 8th seed, but in the Eastern Conference, I don't see that so much. But
the West is going to be a bloodbath.
It really is. I think the
Seriously.
Eastern Conference doesn't have the same 5 through 8 that the West will have, but the Knicks and the Grizzlies, I think, are going to be. We've talked about this on text and on the pod. Like, I think that we are there. These two fan bases are going to be disappointed in the playoffs. I think they would both be lucky to get out of the first round, and they don't. People don't know that now, but they
slow down on the
what are you
to get out
smirking
of the
about?
first round.
What are you smirking about?
The Knicks?
What are you smirking about?
You're just so down because you now you've jumped on the Celtics nuts and you're so down on the Knicks because they lost one game to the Celtics. Good grief. Come on.
They can't stop anybody.
Come on.
What happened to, remember Wingstop? Has anyone said Wingstop about the Knicks since like preseason?
I got it, but look, this is where I always come from on this stuff. The first big problem, and the one that you can't get over, is a personnel problem. And you don't have a personnel problem. You don't. You have guys with the ability to do what you want to have happen. You do have that. You have the ability between Hart and Anunoby and Bridges, and I get it. They're not doing it now. It's super disappointing in the regular season when they're not coming up. But, like, you've got the goods to be able to do something great, right? That is the difference.
I don't see it.
Come on.
I don't see it. And for all Knicks fans, they're pointing to Mitchell Robinson coming back. Like, let's not. I've seen Mitchell Robinson play basketball before. Like, who do we think this guy's not? Wilt Chamberlain?
Hold on. I'm actually going to defend some Knicks fans. Not saying that he's going to change things all that dramatically, but I do think in terms of rim protection, he can alter. I mean, you can't have Cat being your last. Your last line of defense, just having somebody else there to be that last line of defense could have a much greater impact than you would necessarily believe. It's not. It's what it changes for your team more so than the individual player. I accept this guy is not Wilt Chamberlain, but just not having Cat being your rim protection is what that changes dramatically to me.
Mitchell Robinson hasn't played a minute this season. He's already got 150 fouls. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And he can't catch passes. He's never gotten his own basket in his life. He's a great offensive rebounder. I'll give him that. And he can rim protect when he's not fouling, but like he's not going to dramatically, he's not going to take them from like the 20th defense in the league to the 5th in 2 months. It's just not going to happen. I'm really, really down on this Knicks team right now. And I'm also down on your Grizzlies. I think both these teams will be lucky to get out of the first round. You'll see.
They don't now, but people are going to start getting behind the Lou Dort as Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I didn't see this one.
Yeah, I can see this coming. Because you look at the odds right now, and it's Jaren Jackson Jr., who's won the award before, Evan Mobley, and Dyson Daniels, who's going to be on a team that is like a lottery team, okay? I think what's going to happen is you're going to see this historically great defense that Oklahoma City has, and then you're going to go, okay, here's a historically great defense. Somebody's got to be responsible for this in a massive way. Obviously, you've got Caruso, Gilgeous-Alexander. They got a bunch of great defenders.
Yeah, of course.
They got a bunch of great defenders. But the greatest of which is the Dortcher Chamber. He is. And it's a guy that has never gotten his flowers for being an amazing defender. He's never even I don't even think he's made second team all defense. He's never made an all defense team, which is abhorrent.
Now that you mention it,
it's abhorrent.
I don't think he has.
No, it's crazy. He's never made an all defense. And yet he's very well might be. And they kind of broke the seal a couple of years ago by giving it to Marcus Smart as the best defender on a team that had a story. And so I think once this thing opened up, the conventional wisdom is, okay, well, who's the next big guy that's got really good counting stats? Jaren Jackson Jr., great defender. Evan Mobley, great defender. Dyson Daniels is going to have steal numbers that are unheard of. But I think
7 last night.
But I think Dort is the one that people, as this goes on and as we get into the award season, I think Dort's going to be the one that ends up getting promoted the most and catches a narrative. That would be my guess.
That's interesting. I would say that he needs a couple quote unquote Heisman moments.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? He needs a couple. He's had like one or two this season so far. That Luka game comes to mind, but he needs a couple Heisman moments where it's like, that those two games that we talked about in the last pod, where he keeps Jamal Murray 2 for 14 from the field and then 3 for 10. You know what I mean? He needs a couple Heisman moments.
Who was the one that it was Mitchell. It was Donovan Mitchell. Just like
and Dagnall after the game said like, "Oh, I put Lou on him or something," right?
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell was in hell.
So I would say he's 2 Heisman moments away from winning this, but it's going to be hard to get it from Mobley or Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, the other one was Jaylen Brown when they played the Celtics. Yep.
In Boston.
Yeah, what happened to Jaylen?
That's what it was. Yeah.
How were you able to slow down Jaylen in the second half? And he said, we put Lou Dort on him.
We put Lou Dort on him. Yeah. Dagnall was just like, we put Lou Dort on him. I was like, well, why didn't you do the first half? Brilliant basketball mind. Yeah.
Anyway, Dort, for what it's worth, Dort is at plus 1,200 right now. He's the 4th favorite. I just feel like going through the way the narrative season works, I feel like he's going to be the one that catches the wave.
If he a couple national TV games when he does the torture chamber thing would help that, but it's just so hard to get away from who's the big with the most blocks that also gets rebounds, That's right. And I also felt like watching that. I know we were both watching the Cavs Grizzlies game over the weekend. I felt like Jaren Jackson Jr. I think he circled that one a little bit. I think he wanted to score on Mobley, and he did. He had some nice moments against Mobley.
Unfortunately, he was in foul trouble, he has not been a foul trouble guy all year. And, of course, they played on national TV, and he got in foul trouble, and it led a bunch of bozos to being like, oh, if you could just Jaren Jackson Jr.
I texted you about this. Like, that was the story from 2 years ago, that he was like the foul trouble guy. But he cleaned that up, didn't he? Am I wrong? I know you watch every Grizzlies
game. He cleaned it
up
completely. Yeah. But, of course, he played on national TV and had massive foul trouble.
Yeah, but he was scoring on Mobley pretty easily. I feel like both of them knew that it was kind of a, there's a little bit of a subplot during that game.
In fairness, Mobley had a massive game.
I don't think that'll happen, but I like it. I like it for the sake of the pod. I can see the roadmap to getting to that destination, but it's just such a dumbed down award at this point. It's like, who's got the most blocks that averages 10 rebounds? That's it. You get the most blocks. If you just go to like whatever basketball stat site you like and you filter by who's got the most blocks, you're going to see the defensive player of the year, like pretty much 18 out of 20 years. That's kind of how
Wemby was going to run away with that thing. It wasn't even close.
Okay. I've done the podcast. It'll get dark. I've glazed the Celtics. I've got a few left. I'm saving a special one for the very end. Okay. God. All right, so I'm a rapid fire here. They don't now. But they will soon see Jeff Van Gundy make a major difference as a head coach next season.
What?
Yeah. Quietly, the defensive coordinator of the Clippers, who no one had circled as like a top defense in the league. And there's a couple spots. The Pelicans, Jazz, Blazers, Bulls, Sixers are all teams that I think might be looking for a new head coach. And my former colleague, one of my favorite people, I don't even know this man. Like, his number is not in my phone. We're not like friends or anything. I think that he will be a head coach and make a difference next year.
I like that one. I
think so.
That Jeff Van Gundy returns to the sidelines.
He's already returned.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's already returned, and he's basically the Clippers defensive coordinator, for lack of a better term. And he's taken this Clippers team, who's their best defensive player?
Probably Jones Jr.
Yeah, that's fair. But like, and they're not like a roster of elite defenders like the Thunder.
No, it's like Chris Dunn, Jones Jr. Yeah. Like, look, to have that good of a defense with James Harden playing
and have James Harden, yeah, exactly. And like, Zubac isn't exactly like, he's not a rim protector, but yeah. So I'm gonna say Jeff Van Gundy makes a difference. I'm a rapid fire here because I got one more I want to say.
Well, he's also been doing a bunch of he was omnipresent in the background shots of that Court of Gold. Yeah, with the Team USA thing. So I mean, he's been on the sidelines a bunch over the course of the past couple of years. By the way, can I just mention, because we mentioned it briefly last pod? That's 4 stars for me. I'd give it a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes. Honestly, I thought Court of Gold was not good, amazing. I loved it. I thought they did such a great job. Did you think about these things as a time capsule? I thought they did an amazing job capturing that Olympics and everything that I loved about that Olympics.
And it really makes you wonder. And my wife is a documentary director, so I think about these things a lot. Is that Starting Five doc was just kind of like, whatever. Blah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you've got the 5 of the biggest stars in the league, quote unquote, all access during the season. You cut it together, you edit it, and then you present it to the audience. And I watched like half of one episode, and I was like, I'm bored. I'm on my phone. You know what I mean? I call it TSOP, time spent on phone. That's my Rotten Tomatoes score. If I'm watching White Lotus, my TSOP is 0. When I was watching Starting Five, my TSOP was so high. I was just scrolling Instagram while that thing was going. And
that whole thing should have just been an Anthony Edwards show.
Seriously. But it makes you wonder, like, what is so successful about Court of Gold that was lacking in Starting Five?
Because they weren't able to craft a narrative. When it's player produced, you can you show people what you want to show them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like watching somebody on Instagram, right? You don't see me yelling at my daughter. You see me playing basketball with my daughter. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's an authenticity that comes along with a fully formed when we're watching the Serbia coach call them a bunch of effing wimps. When we are watching the French coach and Nick Batum, talk about Evan Fournier's comments in the media, right? Like, it wasn't all good. You know, there was the good and the bad. It was real. That's the difference. The level of authenticity felt totally off in Starting Five, except for the Ant part, because he's the only one that truly does not care. By the way, in Court of Gold, he told Barack Obama to stand down.
Yeah. So, who uses the term "stand down" like that too? Seriously, it's like something that like cops use over the radio or something, or like military people on the front lines. He's like, stand down. I was like, damn, man,
he's amazing. That's why he was the only good part of. I'm sorry. Jason Tatum is boring as all get out, and then you're gonna hey, here's something that's gonna make Jason Tatum seem more interesting to you. Watch him and Deuce play Papa Shot. I'm like,
he's got a kid. Congratulations, everyone's got a kid. You know what I mean? It doesn't make you unique or interesting having a kid. That just means you had sex before. you know, it's like all right.
Yeah.
Seriously. Next one, they don't now, but they'll see Giannis Antetokounmpo play somewhere else next season.
Okay, that's ridiculous. You saved this for the end? Really?
No, I got one more at the end. I got a good one for the end. Yeah. That was my rapid fire one. I just feel like the Bucks are going to lose again in the first round. The Bucks are going to lose again in the first round.
He just said he's not going anywhere.
Couldn't you see them losing to the Pacers? Couldn't you see that happening?
He's not going anywhere. Come on.
I just want him to.
Why?
You got one more? I got one more I want to finish.
All right. They don't now. Oh, boy. All right. So since you wanted to, this one might be one that could elicit something out of you. They don't now. But people will believe. Now, let me preface this.
He's hedging. He's hedging.
No, I'm going to preface this.
You started down the road and then you stopped and turned around.
Prefacing. This is called a preface.
A preface.
Several weeks ago, we did a predictions thing. And I told you that the Western Conference would be altered in the same way as it was last year with Dallas, that it would be altered by the trade deadline. I think we have a very reasonable chance that is the case again. And so there I tell you that they don't now, but people will believe that the Warriors made the biggest deal at the deadline for this season. Right now, the world thinks the Lakers made the biggest deal at the deadline. I am telling you, the Warriors made the biggest deal at the deadline because they got somebody that they don't have to fit that roster to who they got. This for the next 10 years, the biggest deal is the Lakers deal. For this season, the biggest deal is the Butler deal.
Okay. I mean, that's absolutely preposterous, right?
No, it's not.
On surface, it's absolutely preposterous. However, since this is a thought
good thing
exercise,
these are recorded.
Yes, since this is a thought exercise, we'll go down this thing, and I think it's fair to say that the Warriors are likely to be the 6th seed, right? I think that's fair to say, right?
Certainly possible there.
Yeah, I think they're playing really well.
Yeah.
They look great. And the teams in between them in the 6th seed are the Clippers, the Timberwolves, and the Mavericks.
Yep.
And I would assume I think it's fair to say that the Warriors will probably finish down the stretch better than those other 3 teams.
And that was their stated goal, was to get to 6.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also fair to say that the Lakers might end up in the 3 seed. You can see that. Can't you see the Lakers as the 3 seed and Memphis as the 4?
Yes.
I would never, ever, ever in a million years. First of all, that'd be imagine a Luka, LeBron, Butler, Curry first round 7-game series.
And Memphis is playing Houston.
Yeah. They'll be on the Discovery Channel. That'll be the Discovery Channel series.
And feeding into OKC.
HGTV.
I'll be going to games at 1:00 on Saturday.
Yes, exactly.
At least it gives me the rest of my day.
I think I'm going to have to say, as much as I love the improv, yes, and to support my co-host and friend and brother, Chris Vernon, I have to say that I think that Luka might be a little bit more impactful on his team than Jimmy Butler's going to be on the Warriors. I'm saying for this year, too.
Because here, one of the things I told you at the trade deadline, it's not just how Butler fits with them, which is going to be great and has been. It is what it does for Curry. Don't look now. Steph Curry is averaging over his last 10 games 28 points a game. 28.
Yeah. And Jimmy Butler's averaging 28 free throws a game.
Life is a lot easier for Steph Curry because the truth is nobody cared about Andrew Wiggins and nobody cares about Pods and no one cares about Kuminga. It's like, fine. If you beat us, you beat us. There was one guy to worry about there. One guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's 2 guys, and it makes the whole world different.
And also, like, low-key, Chivano sort of slowing down the second half of the season has affected that team as well. But Butler's been a great fit, and I think that'll be a really interesting playoff series. I'm taking Luka as the more impactful player this season. Sorry. He's one of the best 5 players in the world. But I'm going to finish on this
playoffs.
one. They don't now. But people are really going to miss Hooters. I don't think people are taking this Hooters news seriously enough. And if you haven't seen it, first of all, what are you doing with yourself? What is your timeline feeding you? But Hooters is setting up to declare bankruptcy. This American institution is going to go away. And I don't think there's a person on this planet that doesn't have fond memories of Hooters. How do we let this happen? When Rainforest Cafe declared bankruptcy and disappeared, I would totally understood that. I've only been to Rainforest Cafe like twice. But Hooters is like, it's something that we all have in common. Like, we don't all have Waffle House in common because it's regional. Hooters is national. It's an institution. We know what we're getting when we go to Hooters. And the fact that it's going to disappear and no longer be a thing and be a distant memory of ours, that I really think that as a nation, we need to band together and stop this from happening. I don't know how, but I'm going to really miss Hooters, and we need to stop this.
Okay. I am going to say, and again, this feels like it should be like a Derek Thompson podcast for The Ringer. It should be like one of the subjects, that he goes into with somebody else from the Atlantic.
I wish I had done some more research. Yeah,
somebody from the Atlantic, but it's going to be called "The Rise in Outlets for Horniness," and that now there's too many outlets if you're horny, if you're a horny guy.
Oh, Oh, I see
right?
this.
Like you could be on your phone.
You've got
like,
Hooters in your pocket. Why do you need to go to Hooters?
It used to be if you wanted to see a girl with the, great boobs and eat great wings, that there was that was easy to go to, right? But now with the advent of Instagram and DoorDash, I feel like it has made it.
Wow.
People don't value the personal interaction in the same way that they used to. They just order chicken wings to their house via DoorDash and then DM a chick on Instagram. We have devalued the personal interaction.
Well, for the sake of the future generations, I think we need to stop this.
But I'm also going to call you out here on one front.
Why?
Because this feels like one of these things that you and I could get nostalgic about, because going to Hooters was like a thrill when we were young. And so you say, how can we let this happen? How come there's no more we can't let this happen? When is the last time you went? I'm not kidding.
Okay, well, a couple things. Number one, they took away the Hooters in the city.
That's not
Number
the
two,
answer.
No, I've got you. The last time I was at a Hooters was quite some time ago. But, counterpoint, when I lived in Los Angeles and worked at Grantland, there was a Hooters within walking distance that I frequented. They had a golden tea, was not connected to the internet, which is always annoying. They had a golden tea there. They had friendly staff, wings, beers, sports on TV. Bro, I was a regular. I knew
Grantland
the manager.
was a decade ago.
When was the last time I was at Hooters? They took away the one in the city.
Bro.
Damn, this is my fault. I forced Hooters into bankruptcy. I did this.
Dude.
There's no one to be upset with but me.
Grantland was a decade ago, dude.
Where's the nearest Hooters?
Zach Lowe is a millionaire now.
He deserves it. Where's the nearest Hooters? I'm searching right now.
Zach Lowe has made millions of dollars since you guys last went
nearby.
to Hooters.
10 miles away. Oh, God. In Fresh Meadows, Queens. All right, well, I know what I'm doing for lunch today.
There's a Hooters within 10 miles of you, and you have never been.
New York City, 10 miles is like an hour. It might as well be 100 miles. Yeah. These are different miles. Our miles aren't the same as your miles. Yeah. It's different. Yeah. No chance. All right. Well, that's what I'm doing for lunch.
You lament
Hooters.
it, though.
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. Going to Hooters.
I like those Daytona wings there.
Good, man.
Yeah, no. I will say that this is sad. I have not been in person in over a decade for sure. But I have ordered it. I have. I'm trying to think.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That is wild work.
Yeah.
That is wild work. You've ordered Hooters for the wings?
Yep.
Just to your home?
Yes.
Wow.
Wings.
Wow. You really do read it for the articles.
I like the curly fries too.
Curly fries are good.
Yeah, they're kind of like Arby's. I like those curly fries.
They had one in the city right by MSG that I would go to after Knicks games.
Hey,
but
true story. It was a football Sunday, and we ordered Hooters wings, fried pickles, and curly fries.
God, fried pickles are fantastic.
Fantastic.
Do
they do those up north?
Yeah, you can get them. It's like a novelty thing. You know what I mean? It's like, this Southern themed place has fried pickles, but it's not like you know what I mean? It's more of like a novelty act. It's not like a standard, but fried pickles are fantastic. God, you know what? I was so mad at everybody else for ruining Hooters, but I don't think I've been to Hooters in like 4 years. Seriously.
See?
This is my fault.
It's your fault.
I'm going to Hooters right now for lunch. Fresh Meadows, Queens. Meet me there. I'm going right now.
We've got to get a Hooters Queens review and come on the show on Friday.
61-09 190th Street, Fresh Meadows, Queens. All right. Going there right now. Getting on the train.
We want the review. On Friday. Thank you to our executive producer, Jessie Lopez, as always. And Jacoby, I'll talk to you later this week.